like Spock. But we'll move on, and I will ask this: what is your least favorite show?
Original series. It was
I'm
before my time, and I could just never get into it.
I'm not mad at that at all. I would 1,000% concur with that, just because by the time I was introduced to it, it was obviously so dated that it almost made me not want to watch TNG when that became something I could watch. And it definitely laid the groundwork, but it's like if it paved the way, it was very rudimentary paving, it was cobblestones, whereas now we have a cement thing that comes through and levels everything out.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I kind of appreciate how they paved sort of some way for, the future, uh, interracial, you know, stuff on TV. That was big. And and I recently learned something about that. Apparently, they tried several times to just cut or act the kiss because they were so worried about how controversial it was going to be on TV. But yeah, that Michelle and William were just like, nope. And every tape they just kept kissing. So that was cool.
Yeah, definitely. And you know what, I am actually remiss in the fact that I haven't said it yet at this point. But Nichelle Nichols recently passed away, and she played Uhura. And I actually just saw something about how she decided or helped pick that name because she was reading a book called Uhuru, which apparently in Swahili means freedom. And she thought it would be cool to name the character that. And they were like, well, okay, can we sort of, work with it? And they came up with Uhura, which I thought was cool. But yeah, definitely, it definitely was trailblazing for its time. And it's crazy to think that there's a show set in the future about humans interacting with things from complete different planets, but people watching this show would be upset that two human beings expressed human emotions and actions.
I know, profits forbid, right?
Right?
Um,
And those people got treated as reasonable. Like that's even more crazy. Like, oh, we that's a reasonable concern. Like, what? Man,
yeah,
we've
ridiculous.
uh we've moved a little bit, hopefully, maybe, I think.
I'd like to think we have, that's for
I'd,
sure.
I'd, I'd like to think so. Okay, so what, or excuse me, who is your least favorite Trek captain? And what I wanted to do with this was it doesn't have to be a captain in Starfleet. So, we've encountered Cardassian captains, or we've encountered Klingon captains, Romulan captains, like all of that. Who is like, is there one reoccurring? I guess it would probably be a bad guy, or it might be a Federation person if you consider them to be the quote unquote good guys. Would be your least favorite. And this is shows,
Mm,
this is reboots, this is all of that. So the Kelvin universe, all that.
right. So this one's pretty hard for me because it's more of a personal decision here, and it is Starfleet. And so it's Captain Kirk. And that's just because Shatner, he used to be my idol. Like I loved him in Boston Legal, which is something I watched before Star Trek. And so when I finally met him in person, he didn't have time for fans. And, I was personally starstruck. And I'm like, oh, what do I do? And he didn't make eye contact. He just took the little sticky note with my partner and I's name on it and just signed a poster. And then we were shunted out. And I think that was just the biggest letdown. It's like if I'm paying buku bucks to meet you, at least get off your butt and acknowledge me. And I think Captain Archer is probably a close second. But that's because of his character, right? He's a pretty mild leader.
Okay.
He didn't seem, yeah.
And that's crazy. Okay, so just so I'm clear, it's Kirk as played by William Shatner.
Correct. Yeah.
Got you. Because of how William Shatner actually exists as a human being.
Yeah. I would
Yeah.
I would say so. Yeah.
You know, it's
Unfortunately.
funny. I always read online people that say, I have a friend or I know a person and he was really mean to. Now I can say that. I could be like, hey, I know someone personally who this guy was a jerk to. So thank you for letting
Hmm.
me join that exclusive club.
Yeah. Yeah, no worries.
Right, right. And Archer, I could see that. I could definitely see that. Because it is almost I was talking to someone about this not too long ago. You can really tell that Enterprise is the first Star Trek post 9/11. Just the way that Archer sort of acts, and that person said to me Archer almost is like the folksiness of like a George W. Bush in space. Like he actually was like, I feel like Bakula was trying to channel that like all shucksness of George W. Bush. And I was like, wow, I've never thought about that. But once he said that, I can't help but now like see that when I think of Archer.
Yeah, he was definitely trying. Like everybody shits on him, but it's just people thing. Like I see what you're trying to do, and I think he's still got a lot of respect from his crew, and I think that's what I mean. A good like a pro for him was just how um, more emotionally involved he was. Plus Porthos, like that, he had a dog. Like that was so awesome. I mean, there's been cats, like Spot and that, but yeah, no, I don't know. He could have commanded a little stronger, right? But that's not to say he's my least favorite, right?
Right, right. Now, I did like Porthos. He did almost create that intergalactic incident when he peed on that tree that time. But other than that, Porthos was pretty solid.
Yeah, dogs are gonna dog.
Right. You know, I've always wondered if they're like Trek has, like you said, the cats and the dogs, and then you've seen certain alien species that will resemble Earth felines or Earth canines. I've always wanted them to encounter an alien race that somehow, some way has the ability to literally communicate like directly with the animals on the ship, and like somehow the animals like save the day, but the Enterprise or whoever have no idea that's like why they just didn't get obliterated. I guess sort of like the dolphins, but like it would be the animals on the ship.
Right. I guess you would probably, yeah, have to bring in a whole new species that is just, one with animals that's very like good
Yeah,
with
or for
linguistics.
yeah, like for whatever reason, like whatever mental waves that humans put out and blah 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 put out, they can't work with those, but they can work with like Spot. And then like Spot's like, oh, I like these people, and they're like, all right, cool, we'll let them live. Um, you know what? Maybe it would end up being like what were the dinosaur people from Voyager? Oh, I can't remember. The
Sorry,
Voth,
man.
right? Isn't that it?
Yes.
With the city ships, maybe it'd be someone like the Voth that like are sort of animals from Earth too. So I don't know. I digress. Um,
Yeah.
so what is your least favorite Trek episode?
um, would say Voyager's initial, which is caretaker, right? It's like the
Oh,
It's a
okay.
long intro episode. Based just the way I took it was a dramatic male alien being an emotional butt because he can't find a new girlfriend. When all else fails, he refuses to send Voyager back home, and he just self destructs. I'm like, really, really? And so, yeah, I mean, I can understand why he hung around, trying to save the Okampan, and I don't know. I would have moved on. But yeah, for him to not help Voyager in any way and then just self destruct, like, come on. It was just a very long, drawn out episode. And unfortunately, it didn't draw me into the series. Uh, So Rich was like, "You need to just hang in there. A few more episodes in, it gets better, I promise."
Right. I mean, and I can definitely relate to that. Because I want to say the first Voyager episode that I really was like, let me pay attention to this, it would probably be the one, was it the 27s where they like find Amelia Earhart? I don't even know what season that is. Um, and like the aliens had taken them and deposited them on this planet, and like the people worshipped them. Um, I think it's called the 27s, something like that.
Mm.
Do you know
Is
what I'm
that
talking about?
Yes, I know the one you're on about. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, that one was uh, unique.
I'm a history
Um,
person, so it drew me
oh,
in that it
right.
was like, oh, Amelia Earhart and like a World War II Japanese soldier, and so I was like, okay, I'm gonna see what's going on, and then I just stuck with it because it's Star Trek, right?
As
Um,
you do.
right, right, and I would say Voyager is definitely not the worst Star Trek show. It's not my favorite, but it definitely has moments of brilliance. And Janeway is generally, a part of that. Tuvok's a part of it a lot of times, but I like my favorite part of it was like, who would have thought of having like a murderous Betazoid? Like to me, that was just
Mm,
like brilliant. I'm like, oh wow, like Betazoid are generally seen by Star Trek fans as like the most docile of like all the alien races almost, And then it's like, no, this one's a murderer, and he's he does it. He's been doing it for a while. It's like, okay, this is very intriguing. So it definitely had its moments.
yeah, I can't say that. Yeah, it was one of my favorites, but yeah, I don't know. I think of Deanna, and she, even her character was very like draining to watch in the first couple of seasons because I feel, and then like whenever her mom visits, she's just like straight up using her telepathic abilities, and she doesn't come across that way. And I'm like, I feel like they all should sort of be like that. But Deanna was just, yeah, she bothered me too.
Um, I got you. I will say, like, as far as Loxana Troy, um holder of the golden rings of Beta Z or something of that nature.
That's
I
right.
think it's almost a completely different character what she gets on Deep Space Nine, but her on Deep Space Nine, I think is probably the best I've ever seen that character done.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I especially liked her with when she was trying to woo Odo. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and then she just you saw a completely different side of her. It's like her character had grown since TNG in the way that she was very pushy with Picard. Um, but yeah, I mean, you could still see, a few of her traits coming out in DS9, but she eventually just sort of evolved into this more empathetic person. And yeah, I was there for that. That's good.
Definitely. All right. So least favorite character in Trek.
Mm, uh, um, I want to go with um, Chicote, but my reasoning behind that is because of the writers, right? So they screwed that character up so bad. It was cringe to see them basically mess with the Native American traditions, and I just felt like that was a total insult. They could have handled it better. So yeah, I would have to say Chicote.
Yeah, fair enough. I think I'll probably get that a lot. I think if you ask the actor that played Chakotay, he might say that too. Um, let's
Mm-hmm.
see. If you could be any alien, or let me rephrase that. If you could be any race that exists in a Star Trek, what would it be?
If I could, more like I am. I
Okay.
feel like I'm part Klingon, right? Like they knew their gods were trouble. They're honorable, but super spicy. Also blood wine.
Blood wine.
I had a yeah, I had a bloke draw my family as Starfleet characters, but I had him put myself and my kids shown as like half Klingon. I felt like I kind of related a lot to Balana Torres in Voyager, right? So um, I'm just, yeah, I'm spicy. I can be very spicy. And yeah,
So you're the Balana that actually likes being half Klingon.
uh-huh, yeah, I would
Right.
totally embrace that.
Man, and that character, like she had a couple episodes where you sort of get to really see her struggle with that. Just the Klingonness of her identity, I guess you would say. But so like other than Balana Torres, or I guess excluding Balana Torres, when you saw them on like TNG, Deep Space Nine, you just were always like, I really am about that energy. I just like what they're doing.
100%. Oh my gosh. I mean, apart from Worf being an absolute crap father, I loved a lot of the Klingon episodes. They were so rowdy and they're all drinking and the camaraderie, the esprit de corps, everything. It was awesome and I love them.
That's fair enough. I'll ask you this: which do you have a favorite Klingon
Um,
or favorite
I
house?
would no favorite house. Even though Valana's half, I still really like her. Martok is probably a close second, but definitely Valana. Valana's pretty cool because I see a lot of her in me, right?
Sweet. I would definitely have to say it would either be Martok or it would be the he just passed away recently, but he played the Klingon um emperor that was killed in the Final Frontier, the Shatner movie, the original cast Star Trek movie. And he was a pretty cool Klingon too. But yeah, Martok, as far as the television series go, would probably have to be the top of the list because Martok's just awesome.
He was dope. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Going back to original series, I'm like, if you try and have me quote anything like that, I'll just put it simply like I tried to watch the first movie twice. Fell asleep both times. Like I
Now, look,
just
listen, I'm gonna be honest with you. I would say you sort of almost got to think of it like this. The first movie was made in like the 70s, so it sort of has that aesthetic to it. The second movie, I believe, is The Wrath of Khan. That was 1982. I think when you get to the fourth and like six, the fourth movie, and then like fifth, sixth, it definitely becomes a more updated feel. You don't really feel like you're watching something that's like ancient. The first one for me, like I can't get through it because it feels like I'm watching something that's like sort of ancient.
yeah, almost like this very vintage documentary. It's just super boring. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's like slow but at the time they would have been like, "Oh my god, can you believe how that looks?" Like, but it is what it is.
I'm sure they were totally proud at the time, but yeah, it definitely didn't age well.
Right. Now, so this is pretty much the last question I have that I sent you over. Nothing's really popped up, but I will ask you, be as detailed as you'd like. Paramount contacts you right now. They say, "We're completely out of ideas for the Star Trek franchise. You have complete control. You can do a new show, you can do a new movie, whatever you want to do. What do you create?"
Hmm. I mean, first of all, it's listening to the fans. I think that that's what they really need to do, right? So, I mean, personally, I'd like a show where they kind of touch on a lot of like the secondary character couples, like their future endeavors, past serving on the ships and stations. Like, where are Miles and Keiko? Did Garrick and Bashir ever hook up? Balana and Paris. Can we have a Janeway and Chakotay relationship? I mean, and there's other things that just bug me too. Like seriously, 33 years for the doctor to come up with the name Joe. Like I want to know a bit more on that, like where he is. Um, but what about Picard, right? I'm hugely into that new series. I almost feel like we could redo it. Like, I feel like Picard would have been better with him just tending to his winery, where there's like guest appearances from TNG, like either there to ask for advice or taking them into something more episodic with the guests, out in space, saving the day sort of deal. Um, but yeah, you could just imagine that sort of ending with Avery Brooks coming in as Cisco, the emissary, and just like punching him for, what happened. I won't say it, but yeah, something like that would have been pretty cool. I think definitely Paramount. All they need to do, if they did run out of ideas, just listen to the fans. There's so much fanfic out there. It's crazy. It's so good.
Yeah, I remember when that Prelude to an Naxar buzz started, and I was like really excited because they had, the guy that played Martok, they had the guy that played uh what's his name from Enterprise, the Vulcan ambassador. I can't remember his name, but he was on there as well. So it was definitely some faces and voices that you remembered. And I was like, oh, this is
Mhm.
so cool. And then it seems like all of a sudden Paramount was like, nope, we got a project and we're just gonna get really litigious with this fan stuff. And then they eventually had to get to the point where they put out there like, this is the parameters you have to work in for us to be like okay with your fan produced thing. And it really just sort of killed like the fan creators, which
Yeah.
sucks because they were definitely telling some pretty cool stories that really only helped to add to the Star Trek lore that gave Paramount more options of things that they could make money off of. So it's crazy that they would go after it like that. um I will say, as far as, and I know I'm sort of going back in time a little bit to the previous question, um, Koloth, Kang, and Core, I feel like they definitely would be Klingons that would be I don't know, like they bridged the gap, right? So they were there for the original. Oh, you don't really watch the original. So the original
No, yeah.
series, yeah, they're there as like reoccurring antagonist to Kirk and the Enterprise. And then in Deep Space Nine, they show up for that mission with Jadzia because she was friends with them. And she's the one that, did the treaty with them and all that. And so then they end up dying except for Core, and then him and Worf go on the mission where they try to find the Sword of Kahless, and then he ends up during the Dominion War sacrificing himself and dying. And then that was like pretty much the last of like the old Klingons from TOS at that time. But I think you could definitely, going to the Paramount question, do something with that era, like because there's not a lot there. I personally still want to see the Romulan Federation War. Like
Ooh,
I've
that's a
been
good
wanting to,
one.
like, right, that I've been wanting to see that ever since they were like on TNG. Oh, we haven't spoken. And then I at the time was like so fascinated by these characters that I went and researched, and then I see on TOS they had already at that point had a war with these people, and they used, like, at the time they were like, oh, they use nuclear weapons. I was just like, what? So Enterprise sort of danced around doing it and never got to. So I would love to see it.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. Oh, you know what another good one is? Andy Robinson, who played Elam Garrick, he wrote a book called
A
A
Stitch
Stitch
in
in
Time.
Time. Oh my
Yes.
gosh. And so I would really like to see that as a movie. Like I would pay a lot of money to see that because we finally petitioned to have uh, I guess the people that own, like the publishing house that owns this book, we finally convinced them to let Andy do an audiobook and narrate it for us. I'm like, oh, we're so excited for that. It's going to be so awesome.
Oh yeah, for
But
sure.
I would love to see that as a movie,
That is
definitely.
that is fantastic. I remember a long time ago looking up that book, and it was like $300 for like the paperback.
Yep, I think I got my copy for $100, and it even has, like, a little bug hole in it. Thankfully, it didn't cut out, like, any of the words, but, like, I cherish that book. It sits in front of me on my desk at work.
Right? That's like that is so crazy that this book is like so valuable. Like you could oh man, that just shows you the devotion and like love that Trek fans have for this universe that is ever growing. Um have you watched all of the new shows like the Discos and of course the Strange New Worlds, Prodigies?
Prodigy, no, I've watched the first 2 episodes there. I'm keen to get back in that. I watched the first couple of Lower Decks, need to get back into that. You know, some of those episodes are just kind of good background stuff, um, if you're going about doing things. Unfortunately, I don't have the personal time, between running my store, working. I have 2 kids, I have a house full of animals and plants, so
Right,
yeah, I mean,
definitely.
but Picard, I definitely want to catch up on. I have watched all of Disco and Strange New Worlds, and I love them. I love them a lot. So,
Yeah, they're good. I will say, yeah, I understand my thumbnail is lower decks, but I'm not biased, I promise. Um, it what I like about it is the fact that being a cartoon, they can sort of sneak things in that are references to things that fans actually talk about that don't have to make sense, but the fact that they then sneak these things in and Lower Decks is considered canon mean these little in jokes among Star Trek fans then become canon in Star Trek by its own, like by Paramount's own admission, it becomes quote unquote canon. So like the thing with the Tom Perry or you have I'm sorry. So there's a running joke, a meme you've probably seen about the Tom Paris commemorative plates.
I remember that going off in Star Trek shit posting on Facebook, which
Right? So, like,
that
they
was
put
awesome.
that yeah, they put it in the show, so, like, technically, in Star Trek, there really is, Tom Paris commemorative plates. So, I just love the
Yeah,
fact that they get to sorta tweak canon like that. I think that's so cool.
I loved it. That was awesome. I mean, although I haven't seen the full episode, I saw like I see spoilers on Facebook and Instagram all the time, and at this point, I don't care. I like to be in the know. So for me, spoilers are important since I don't have a lot of time to watch, these shows. Um,
Right.
which, which is interesting because previously, like I've watched Voyager 2 or 3 times. I've watched DS9 3, 4 times, TNG twice. Yeah, but these new shows, I just don't have the time for.
Hey, it's alright, it'll be there, it's not going anywhere. I
And
will say I 1,000% expect have you seen any of the previews for the new seasons coming up of Lower Decks or any of the stuff they, released on, like, YouTube or anything?
no, can't say I have.
So, this isn't a spoiler, it's been out there. So, like, apparently there's a crossover episode between Lower Decks and Strange New Worlds,
Oh
and
yes.
there's also an episode of Lower Decks where they go to Deep Space Nine. I fully expect at some point when they go to Deep Space Nine for that attention Bajoran workers meme to pop up somehow.
Oh, they bloody well better. I'm there for that. Oh my
Right?
god.
It has to. I've seen that meme way too much for it not to just show up somewhere on Lower Decks.
Oh my gosh. I really hope they do that. That would be so awesome.
Right. So hey, I've had a ball talking to you. Anything about Trek you got on your mind that you'd like to discuss, other than what I've asked?
Uh, no, I don't really think so. Like you asked a lot of really solid questions, and that covers a lot of it. So that's awesome.
Right, right. Your store, do you want to advertise it or give some social media addresses or anything?
Yeah, I mean, anybody's welcome to Avariana.art is my website. Primarily stickers right now. I am looking to add mugs coming up today, actually. And then I have totes, key rings. Um, but yeah, it's just if you're into Trek and you want stickers to kind of cover your water bottles and stuff, where it's at. And on my Instagram too, my handle is Avariana_art. And occasionally there I will post about other Star Trek artists that do stickers and swag and stuff as well. So I really like supporting small businesses and yeah.
Now, I know my listeners are very intelligent people, but I recently read an article that said most Americans read at a sixth grade comprehension and deciphering level. So if you do not mind the spelling the name for them, please.
Of course. So Avariana is spelled Avariana. And then the other part is just art, ART.